Yeah, on.
Two twins.
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, T. What have you been up to for the last
134 days? 134 days. That's 4.5 months to you and me, Russ.
Why are you sharing the last time that you took a shower?
Let me ask you one question. 134 days, 4.5 months. What do you have to say for yourself?
I have to say, it's good to be back with you.
Oh, we're just going to play this cool. Yeah. Let's play it cool. Yeah, man. Totally.
Well, after you decided
No, come on. 4.5 months. Let's, what have you been up to? Give the people what they want.
I think you said it best because Nubs is too busy. By the way, I'm thoroughly enjoying Tove's Top 5. I think it's a great spinoff.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, I listened to it. Yes.
You do?
I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy it very much. I think you're doing a great job.
Are you sure you listened to it?
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Like, are you sure?
Did you actually prepare Tove's Top 5 trivia? Because if so, that would be incredible.
All right. Since you brought it up, and you claim that you've been listening. By the way, hands up, nothing. No, I want full eye contact.
What would I look up?
Because you claim that you kept up during our hiatus with Tove's Top 5. I'm going to see if that's legit or not as we play Tove's Top 5 trivia for Nubs who disappeared for 4.5 months. Yeah. Welcome back, Nubs. Yeah.
In typical Two Twins in an Album fashion, I start an episode and somehow now we are at you leading again.
I wasn't, I kind of had this as a thought. And my thought was, maybe if the episode gets onward, we'll do it. Or if you bring up Tove's Top 5 and make the claim that you've, tuned in, then I was like, well, let's have him put his money where his mouth is, Let's find out. So we're going to find out. So yes, I have completely
this is pure hijacking.
100%. And listen, when you disappear for 4.5 months, be prepared to get your episode hijacked. But I do promise, Nub, this will be the only hijinks of the entire episode. I do promise that. Okay. Well, actually, no. Yeah, I do.
Doubtful.
No, we're doubtful. We're good. All right. Hands, eyes, and let's see. If you've actually been tuning in. I think I have 10, maybe 11. I don't know. But I think a good score on these would be, I'll be flattered and pleased if you get 6. They're not like super. This is not meant to trap you either. I'm not this. We're not trying to. It's not a gotcha game.
I hope I get 1. How about that? Can I just feel good about getting 1 of these?
All right, here we go.
I love the show.
Well,
I didn't study for the quiz. Obviously,
this is the quickest we've ever done a game. But you brought it up, so All right, I'll give you a couple easy ones. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Recite word for word every lyric to the Tove's Top 5 theme song.
Tove's top 5 because 10 is too many. Tove's top 5 because Nubs is too busy, which is at least B's favorite line in the song. Tove's top 5. Yeah. The yeah is amazing.
Okay, you missed a whole verse. That's incorrect.
What?
It goes,
I'm right so far.
5 because 10 is too many. Tove's top 5 because Nubs is too busy. Tove's top 5. I don't know what he's up to, but he's clearly busy. So let's talk about some tunes because it's Tove's top 5. And then I go, yeah, for no reason.
I think I did very well on that answer. Very well.
Still over 1. But I like that you at least, and by the way, what song is that parodying?
Guns N' Roses.
You're close enough. Pretty tied up. You're close enough.
Yeah, pretty tied up.
Actually, we went inside GNR cover band a couple weeks ago, and I sent you that they played Pretty Tied Up. And I
did they?
I sent it to you. Yeah.
I went and saw GNR, the real band, since our last podcast in Copenhagen, Denmark, and they did not play Pretty Tied Up.
Well, we'll get to all your escapades, but you're 0 for 1 with what we're dealing with at the moment. All right. All right. Here we go.
How many questions are there again? We have a lot to talk about with tonight's album. So,
all right, here we go. Don't try to dilute my game here. All right. I spent like 4 minutes on this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 2. What was the KLF's final moment of triumph prior to the official end of their career?
When they went on TV and hijacked the award show.
There was something bigger than that.
I don't know.
Someone didn't listen to the KLF episode.
It's pretty long.
They burnt £1 million sterling to a crisp.
Oh, okay.
The equivalent of $3.5 million US today. They burnt it. And that's what really made them infamous. Even more so than their other hijinks. So, I mean, you were a little bit correct. They did go on the Brit Awards with fake machine guns and they shot the crowd and then they announced that they had left the music industry. But the real epilogue of their career was burning £1 million. All right. Which, you could have gotten from any minor study of the KLF. So,
with inflation, that's like 5 million now.
3.5 million today.
Yes.
All right. You're 0 for 2. Okay, question 3. Name the bands featured on Tove's Top 5. I think there are 8 episodes. That were also done on the big podcast, as I call it. 2 Twins in an Album.
Okay, let's see. Not that many. Did we do Smashing Pumpkins? No, we were going to do Melancholy. That's on the list. Big old 2-parter. We never did Steely Dan. That's on my list. We've always wanted to do Pretzel Logic. Vince. We haven't done a Prince album. Who else did you do? Madonna, which I liked. I thought that was cool that you chose Madonna. That's a great top 5.
Yeah.
I mean, if we did a Madonna album, what would you want to do? Like Ray of Light? Probably?
True Blue was the album in that episode that I think there were 3 songs off of it. Now, not to say that's the right one to do. Maybe Erotica. There was so much around that with the sex book and all that. What a prevert, by the way. By the way, I kicked off, 2 pervs right out of the gate with Prince and Madonna. You know?
Yeah, that's right.
Just a whole couple of sexed up, people.
Yeah.
You know,
I actually think that each time you've posted one, I've thought, oh, we haven't done that artist yet. So
you want the answer?
I'm going to say 0.
It's none.
Okay. Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks.
That was legit. You earned that one.
Thanks.
Nice job. All right, you're 1 for 3. Question 4. There are 4 artists.
By the way, I just want to say part of that is that I think you're doing a good job of choosing, to the conversation we just had. You're choosing a lot of artists that never had a great album.
Well, that's
like Queen.
Right.
Like what Queen album?
Perfect top 5. Yeah. Exactly.
Prince is a good example.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about it with tonight's album.
Oh.
That some people declare something a classic, maybe without ever listening to it.
Yeah.
And I think Prince albums are like that. Like Sign of the Times is a good example. People just say, "Oh, it's a classic, great double album."
Kind of double album.
Listen to it.
Too.
Like really?
Yeah.
Purple Rain is a good example. Purple Rain's got some garbage on
junk.
it.
Yeah. Well, even Gold Experience is loaded with junk, and it's
right. Smashing Pumpkins and Steely Dan would be exceptions to that, but outside of that, I think you're picking a lot of. Madonna's a great example.
Yeah. All right.
Is that a tattoo on your left arm, by the way?
Yeah. Do you like it?
I do.
Yeah.
That's one of those modern hip. Oh wait, is that Papa? That's Papa Emeritus from Ghost, isn't it?
But
I can't see it so good.
That if it even looks like that, then it's even cooler. Ghost, man, they're great. But we'll talk about your Ghost thing.
Did you get it? Is that a real tattoo? Did you get one of those?
No, it's fake. We went to the fair this last weekend, and they were doing fake tattoos.
Oh, okay.
But I think it doesn't look terrible. I mean, I don't know. I've wanted a real one forever, and I'm just too big of a wimp,
And since you don't shower much, because you said it's been 134 days, you still have your fake tattoo.
Yeah. These do stay on for like a week, which is kind of cool. All right. Anyway, question 4.
How many more of these are there?
There have been 4 artists featured with Midwest roots. Who were they? Where are they from?
Prince is from Minneapolis.
Correct.
Smashing Pumpkins are from Chicago.
Correct.
Madonna's from Michigan.
Correct.
And Steely Dan. No, I'm just kidding. They're as East Coast as it gets.
Right. Yeah. Angels and Airwaves, right?
Yeah.
You got one.
They're so Midwest.
Yeah, ultimate East Coast and one ultimate Southern California.
So there's one more Midwest that I'm missing.
Yep. Don't be looking at the episode list.
I'm not. What is there to look at? Queen is not from the Midwest.
No, they're not actually. No. That's fair.
KLF is not from the Midwest.
Correct. I mean, maybe the Midwest of Scotland.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. It's
okay.
the state you went to college.
Who did you do from Ohio? Steely Dan, Smashing Pumpkins, Madonna, KLF. Did I probably already said them once.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, punch your balls off.
Oh, 9 Inch Nails. That's right. Trent Reznor's
Cleveland. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I mean, you did okay, but
Okay.
All right. All right. Couple more. Name the only band that Toph featured that was formed after the year 2000.
Angels and Airwaves.
That's correct. Just set up it. That's okay. All right. I will do 2 more. Then we'll just call it a day. Toph, during Album Worth Mentioning, which is kind of a little segment during the Toph's Top 5 episodes. In one episode, Toph mentioned a downer album that was a disappointment. He said the album has a great drummer, but otherwise proved that the band might be, quote, running out of plays to run and seems to be, quote, wobbling.
It was a great description, and you couldn't be more right. And it's the new Queens of the Stone Age.
Correct. All right. Okay.
I listen.
We're cooking with a little gas. All right, here's your last one.
By the way, they have lost it.
Oh, dude, 100%. Right? I mean, it's so stale. It's so stale. It's so flat. It's so non-creative. You know, it's just sludge for sludge's sake. And the word play on words.
Yeah, that right there is.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
yeah.
All of a sudden, they're Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, right. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, totally. All right, last one. Ready? Name one KLF song.
And name one KLF song?
Name one KLF song.
White Room. Well, okay, hold on. The main song is KLF.
That's one of their hits, yes.
What's the title of it though?
I mean, the point of the episode in a way was that the whole band's career revolved around 5 songs. Name one.
Yeah.
I can see you didn't rush to download the KLF catalog after that episode.
I don't like their music.
Well, it's not about their music. That's the whole point. It's not about their music. It's about.
Well, I love their story. The documentary was fantastic.
Yeah, the art piece. Yeah,
correct. But like, it's not.
Right, you can't name one.
What is that one called? Yeah, the album is the
White Room was the album. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. It's a little tough if you're not dug into the story, but you got What Time Is Love, Last Train to Trans Central, 3 a.m. Eternal, Justified and Ancient, and then the Time Lords was Doctor in the TARDIS, which was the Doctor Who song, you know. Anyway.
Cool. Here's the thing about them though, that always kind of
you did a pretty good job, all in all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that confuses me. They have so many remixes. Like, I don't even know what the original album versions are like. Everything's a remix.
That's the other point, is that the originals, at least the 3 of them, were club classics. Like, anyone who's into like ambient trance, all that stuff, actually the KLF is not a joke to them. They're like, those 3 songs are classics. Like, if you talk to Big Brother Scotty, he'd be like, those are go-tos, you know, if you're DJing and whatnot. So the kind of like whole trick to the thing was they remixed their own songs. You know, they almost like covered their own songs in the form of remix. And those are the ones that became radio hits because they radioized them, you know?
Yeah.
With the rappers and the chick voices. And I mean, you know.
Yeah, I think we could talk more about them another time for sure, but it's hard to not think of them as that like Eurotrash thing that was happening.
Total Eurotrash.
With the Ned's atomic dustbin and the Inspiral carpets and all that shit. It just, it all just sounds so, it's just shit, right?
Well, the only difference is they weren't serious. Like,
right. Well, they were serious about what they wanted to say. Just musically, they weren't serious.
I don't think any part of their music was serious. I mean,
no. Just their message, their political stance was.
Well, the statement was extremely serious.
Yes.
You know, I mean, but you know, I mean, they burnt 1 million pounds, you know, to prove their point. I mean, that certainly was serious. But musically, it was garbage, and they knew it, and that was the point. I mean, just listen to Doctor in the TARDIS. And then figure that song went #1 in the UK. They went on Top of the Pops and performed that song. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, it's mockery. It's brilliant. Anyway, you get me going on that. I'll talk for another 2 hours about the KLF. Who wants that?
You're definitely, those who don't know T well, you know, you have a tendency to dive into a topic when you get really fascinated by it.
Oh, that's weird because I say that right at the beginning of the episode. How I don't have an addictive personality, but I have an obsessive personality.
Yeah, particularly with a historical thing that you find to be maybe even a little disturbing. I think that's so always funny.
Go back and listen to the first 60 seconds of the episode. I say exactly what you just said.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah,
so
for sure.
When I get dug in on a story like that, forget it. Like right now, I'll tell you, and I want to hear about what you've been not just listening to lately, but watching and all that. I watched 2001: A Space Odyssey for the first time in probably 10 years, start to finish. And now that's my thing. Like, I want to know everything about that movie, how it was made, and Kubrick's approach and all the interpretations. Like that's my current thing.
What's funny about that is that I watched that twice during my European adventure.
Did you?
Earlier this summer? Yeah, I watched it on the way to Amsterdam and on the way back to Detroit from.
That's so weird because we didn't even talk about that.
No, we didn't. But I tend to watch that movie once a year.
Yeah.
And I review, it's probably the exact same as you. I review the actual events of the space sequences to remind myself of some of the interpretations, but I like to come with my own interpretation, right? So,
yeah.
But you have to, there's something about
what
that
is
song.
yours? What's yours on the ending?
So I do believe that David Bowman turns into the Star Child.
Okay.
Like I've gotten that.
He becomes the Star Child, or
yes.
He's reincarnating as a Star Child?
He becomes the Star Child when he enters the monolith. And then that's what he becomes. And it signifies that the monolith leads to rebirth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely my interpretation. But the scene that the Star Child scene is so powerful and so classic, of course. But the scene that gets me every time is when Frank Poole, goes floating into, when the monolith pulls Frank Poole away from the repair he's trying to make.
Yeah.
And he just goes floating into space.
Yeah.
I think it's more interesting what happens in 2010.
Well, the monolith doesn't pull him away. The Hal pulls him away. Hal kills him.
Well, right. Well, yes, exactly. I mean, Hal essentially murders him.
Yeah, yes. That was all Hal.
Right. But I feel like
appears. But
but there's a lot of interpretations about the relationship between the monolith and Frank Poole, because Frank Poole gets released into space. And if you watch 2010, the year we made contact, the sequel, which is an excellent film too, by the way, that dives further into the whole story. I recommend for anybody who wants to see that follow-up to watch 2010.
The part that kills me, it's maybe a little bit in vogue on this, but is when he's shutting Hal down, when he's pulling that is just incredible filmmaking, when he's pulling all the different fuses or whatever to officially kill Hal.
David.
And Hal's fighting for his,
don't do this, David.
And he starts singing Daisies.
Yeah.
Which then also makes you think of Revenge of the Nerds, which lightens the mood a little bit because it's so freaking intense and powerful and kind of sad that Daisies reminds you of Takashi riding the tricycle.
Yeah.
Daisy. Jump down, jump, jean, tong, bean, whatever.
But how incredibly relevant is the whole notion of Hal?
So relevant.
So
friggin' relevant. And here we are trying to figure out how not to let AI be the destruction of all,
right.
all facets of mankind and Kubrick, 40 years ago, whatever it was. I mean, just crazy stuff.
1984 still matters and 2001 still matters. And these things are supposed to be old, but they feel as relevant, as ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
I'll tell you what else is crazy. Sting.
Yeah. There's some really weird, interesting, heady stuff about him, isn't there?
Yeah. But what's interesting is that
including tantric sex.
Oh, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, most people our age probably think just as much about him getting on. Was it ABC? I forgot what network or show it was. Yeah. Was it Oprah? I can't remember. But anyway, Sting revealed to the world in shocking fashion that he and Trudy, his wife, would have, sex for like 20 hours.
Who I'm convinced Trudy and Kurt Warner's wife are the same person.
Yeah, they might be kind of similar.
I feel like they're the same person.
They both have short hair.
Prove me wrong.
Yeah, you might be right. Well, did Kurt Warner ever talk about tantric sex?
No, but maybe listen, during that time period where Kurt was just, throwing for like 450 a game, the greatest show on turf, interviewing him after every game, he's like, I'm just trying to deliver the football. He's just got the half smile. That he was probably doing some tantric sex. That guy was on top of the world, so I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, we've talked about on previous editions that we call Kurt Warnering.
That's right. Kurt Warner. Yeah. Like a heat check,
I actually think Synchronicity is the ultimate heat check.
I agree with that
for a band. And I think we need to talk about the true most fascinating part of this album in this band, which is what comes out of people working together who absolutely despise one another.
Yeah. I have one additional thing that I'm dying to talk about with this record. It's related to more the mechanics of the album. Do you know what I'm about to say?
The mechanics of the album.
Yeah.
The cover?
No. I like the cover. I'm a sucker for colorful covers.
Yes.
Dude, I can't wait to get your thoughts on this. The track sequencing of this album is such a fucking disaster. That's the one thing I want to make sure we
like. What were they thinking? It's a great call. That is a really great call. Well, we're going to dive into all sorts of themes, and I don't know. Are we going to talk more about tantric sex, or are we done with that?
Yeah. I know nothing of the topic, and many can attest to that. I could probably talk about the opposite of the tantric approach.
Yeah, well, I think in line with tantric sex, this might end up an 8-hour show if I don't keep it moving. So let's do this. Let's take episode. What episode number are we at, by the way?
Oh God, great.
You gave us what days? How many days it's been? But what number are we at?
Do you want to guess?
Yeah, I'm going to guess 94.
We're on 85.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's take episode 85 round and round. Let's do it. Three albums that are spinning round for you.
Well, I'm going to go quick because honestly, more interestingly than the albums that I have been like listening to is more so some of the stuff that I figure it's a good time for you to talk about a couple of the shows that you've been to, because some of it's kind of interesting. So I'll just mention three kind of quick ones. That the brand new Public Image Limited End of World. I've given it 2 spins. It's good. It's not quite as dynamic as what they've done in the past, but the lyrics are amazing. It's like everything you'd expect. And Public Image Limited, Johnny's one of those guys I do actually pay attention to what he says, because I think that's half the thing, is he's like trying to kind of make statements. And I love his boldness these days about political correctness and all kinds of stuff. And that's what you get here. It's just great takes on things. So the music on this one almost to me is a little bit more of a vehicle than maybe it's been on some of the other. And I've really liked the last like 3-4 records. So it's not musically quite as strong as the others, but I do love the things he has to say. So if you haven't heard it, give it a listen for sure. The second is by Sigur Rós. It's called Ada. It was pretty dark from my first listen, and I kind of like when they're a little bit more, I guess, light and fluffy, like the Parentheses record and Talk, and some of the things that I don't really like when they get super like minor, musically intense. This one's probably a little bit more in that direction, but either way, it's great to have something from those guys. And then the third one, man, this Falco Live, I think I mentioned it before, but I've listened to it all the time. Did you give it a listen by any chance?
I did when you had it on a round and round before.
It's so good. It's called Live Forever, The Complete Show, Berlin, 1986. And I'm just going to mention it again because I really have continued to listen to it. It's just so good. Falco, So anyway, I'll turn it over to you and give us your round and round, and also give us a little color on during the last few months. You did take one trip in particular that had a great musical experience, which included your little fans of the band Ghost.
Yeah, it's been quite a summer for shows. It really has. But the highlight for sure, and earlier mentioned a trip to Europe. Got the whole fam in the old family truckster and headed to Copenhagen, Denmark. We went to Sweden.
You may hate it now, honey, but wait till you drive it. And then a few days in London. And during our travels, we went to the Copenhagen Festival in Copenhagen. It just happened to be that when we planned this trip, it was in line with that. And the first night we were in Copenhagen was the last night of Copenhagen. And the headliners were Guns N' Roses and Ghost. On the same night.
That's
not fair.
That's just great. Incredible.
So great.
And my two daughters, 10 and almost 12, are huge fans of Ghosts.
And not like cute, like, oh, like I'm a parent and I forced this on they legitimately love the band, know the music. It's super cool. It's like very, as they say, organic. It's not like some, thing where the parent like forces the kid to like something. It's super cool.
Thank you. Not at all. I appreciate you pointing that out because not even in the least bit. So we saw Ghost at Copenhagen. It was great. They did, like an 8-song festival set. But actually the more fun was last week. We went and saw him headline at Pine Knob with Amon Amarth. That was incredible.
Yeah.
They played a full set. They're on their last leg finally of the Imperia tour, and just an incredible set, an amazing show. We just had an absolute blast. Earlier
just the other day we were listening to satellite radio driving, and is it Mary on the Cross?
Mary on a Cross. Yeah.
Okay. That song was on, and even like Mrs. we were just listening to it because I just left it. I'm like, leave this. And like 2 minutes into it, she's like, this is a really pretty song. I was like, yeah, this is Ghost. But
their music is beautiful. I mean, Ghost is the closest thing to Typo Negative that we have right now.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah.
And Tobias Forge, aka Papa Emeritus III. I mean, he's just sort of a genius. His whole approach is genius level. So we did a couple Ghost shows, and then I took my oldest. My oldest has become a big fan of Big Rack. And I finally got to see that band the night before we left for Copenhagen. Her and I drove to Cleveland one night and went and saw Big Rack at the Hard Rock in Cleveland.
How was that? How'd that go?
They were absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
I mean, Ian Thornley is just, again, the most underrated musician and the most underrated rock band around today. We just had so much fun.
That's awesome.
So,
and then we saw Barry last week.
We did. Yeah, we went and saw Barry.
It's on Barry. What did you think of Barry? Did you like that?
Yeah, I loved it. It was great. I mean, he's 80 years old,
it's pretty
still amazing. Cooking, still doing his thing.
Still doing it.
So first and foremost, I'll just say Ghost Phantomime is certainly something that have been listened to regularly. This is the intermittent EP that he always does. There goes album, then EP, and the EP always has covers. There's 2 covers on Phantomime that are just sensational. One is Genesis, Jesus, He Knows Me. They do this, kind of hard rock version of that. And the other, my favorite, is Ghost does a stunningly gorgeous version of We Don't Need Another Hero by Tina Turner that I just think is remarkable.
Amazing.
The other 2 albums on the turntable would be the new record from Avenged Sevenfold, Life Is But a Dream. And I also was a little bit late to the party, but finally got into the newest album from Disturbed, that is Divisive. Again, just another killer offering from Disturbed. So T, let's dive into this album that really came from pure hatred. And also, I think, a band who knew that this was it. The best way to do that is to start with those nerdy deets done dirt cheap.
You want some dirty deeds? Yeah. You want some dirty deeds?
Synchronicity, which I think is one of the coolest album titles of all time, was released on June 17th of 1983. 1983 is an incredibly significant year in music. It's where many, many bands from the 80s sort of had their commercial high points. It's you just look back at it. The length of the album is about 40 minutes. So again, we're getting into one of those single vinyl albums long before CDs allowed albums to be 60 and 80 minutes long. It's pretty nice and tight and short. The producer is a very familiar name, not only to the music world, but also to Two Twins in an Album, a guy we've explored before, Hugh Padgham. 5 singles from Synchronicity. And you hear these singles and you think, oh my God, it's the greatest album ever made. And those 5 singles are Every Breath You Take, Synchronicity 1 and Synchronicity 2, King of Pain, and Wrapped Around Your Finger. So 5 singles, all of which were quite successful. They recorded the album in separate rooms. All of that is true. It's not urban myth. Each of the 3 musicians, Sting, Andy Summers, and Stuart Copeland, all recorded in their own room. Some of that was technical. Most of it was that the band just truly did not want to be in the same room. Hugh Padgham refers to it as social reasons as to why the band was in separate rooms. None of these cuts are performances top to bottom. In fact, they're spliced together more like an Aerosmith album was in the 90s, where you're almost looking at syllables being pieced together. Hugh Padgham and team had one hell of a task to try and take this album and make it sound cohesive, because it's not. It's a lot of different bits that are sort of sandwiched together to sound right. And boy, does it sound right. It's certainly one of the better sounding albums of the 1980s. It won a slew of awards. And in terms of sales, in the United States alone, it sold 8 million copies. That's 8 times platinum, and went platinum in the UK, France, Canada, New Zealand, and Italy as well. And then it was gold in a variety of other countries. It is the 6th and final studio album from The Police.
Just going to say a little context on the awards piece. So if you're looking at the Grammys, so we give the Grammy back now. Lost. The only reason it lost Album of the Year is because it got edged out by a little album called Thriller. Okay. And just for context, the year before the 1983 Grammys was the year that Toto 4 won Album of the Year over another just ridiculous field of possibilities. And then the following year after this was when Lionel Richie's Can't Slow Down won the Grammy for Album of the Year. So, I mean, it's like, this was just a crazy time for the industry that was just booming and busting at the seams, commercially. And what a year in music where this thing can't seem to get the Album of the Year notoriety because it's going against one of the top 3 selling albums of all time in Michael Jackson's Thriller. By the way, do you know who hosted the Grammy Awards during this run? He did it for like 5 straight years in the 80s.
The Grammys?
Yeah.
Not Lionel Richie. That was the American Music Awards, right?
Correct.
The
Same guy. The 3 award shows I just mentioned had this same guy hosting.
In the 80s?
Yeah. I don't know if I would have guessed. I don't know if I would have gotten this.
Give me some sort of hint.
A musician and a very unexpected guy to be a host.
I don't know. Who was
this? Was probably just before we started watching the Grammys. John Denver.
John Denver. Really?
Yeah, John Denver. Yeah, the guy's full of shit, Rockies. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, weird tidbit there. Yeah.
Yeah, weird tidbit. You're right. It was a crazy time in the music business, but it was certainly a crazy time for the Police. Why did they hate each other so much? Because all 3 of these gentlemen, very talented, have egos the size of Antarctica. By this point, the band had gotten so popular and so successful, and Sting had become such a star that he had literally sort of taken control of all aspects of the band, which often works if that's the case. But when you've got 2 other guys who kind of think they're the greatest thing in the history of the world as well,
Did Andy think he was the greatest, or was it really just Stewart and Sting mostly butting heads and Andy was kind of in the middle?
I think if you rank the 3 egos, Andy was 3rd of 3. I do.
Okay.
Still, though, I don't know that that's saying a whole lot.
Yeah, I think Andy Summers still thought he was, pretty good.
Yes.
The other 2 were just off the charts ego-wise.
Exactly. So T, I want to hear about your experiences with the police, as we always do, as we get into our wondrous stories. T, what is your wondrous story about the police?
Well, I kind of feel like, and again, I don't think their early stuff is that important. I mean, I think it's, Regatta de Blanc and that stuff. I mean, it's fine, but I think really the two records, this one and the one that preceded it, are certainly the most interesting and the most compelling. And I feel like you're almost kind of a Ghost in the Machine guy or a Synchronicity guy. And I'll just say from the get-go that I'm a Ghost in the Machine guy. It's one of my favorite album covers of all time. I think it has one of the best opening songs of all time, Spirits of Material World. I kind of feel like you're like into one or the other critically. And for me, it's the previous. But before I even got into their records, because that actually took a while, I believe this was the first CD box set that I ever purchased. Message in a box, with the blue and the like police badge, shiny silver police badge on the front. It was this really neat box set. And I listened to quite a bit of the Police. I mean, it was, this box was fairly all encompassing. To your point, it's not like they had a ton of studio output. So, in a 4-disc set, you could capture most of it. And there was live stuff and whatever else. And it's definitely one of those early, when we got to the point where you're like going to the record store and buying your own stuff. It's an early piece where I was like, I don't just want the CD. I want the box of these guys. And then Led Zeppelin followed thereafter. And of course, there are many other, box sets that you can point to. I'm sure you've got plenty. But this was the first one that I kind of recall that being the case. And the other thing is, I think they're a terrible live band. Their songs don't have any feel. They don't have any groove. They're too fast. It's like Stewart's up there. And Stuart Copeland's an incredible drummer. I respect him, but like doesn't understand this sort of like live output piece. And I talked about a little bit with Smashing Pumpkins on the Toast Top 5, like just a crappy live band where you really don't get the essence of the songs. Now, they didn't make it easy on themselves because the vocals on Ghost in the Machine and to an extent on Synchronicity are pretty layered. I mean, you've got some songs where there's like 30 different vocal tracks going on. That's hard to replicate. You've got synthesizer pieces and those things. And this is early 80s. This is kind of before a lot of that stuff could get figured out or be replicated in a way that was really good. So they didn't make it easy on themselves necessarily to be a good live band, but I was always so disappointed with, there's so many bands like this where you just queue up an old show. I never do that with the Police because I thought that they were just scrappy and too fast and too chaotic live. So anyway, those are my recollections. And what are yours, buddy?
I do remember that box set. And I remember you and I were kind of fascinated by their early punk stuff.
Yeah.
You're a Synchronicity. You're like, there's no way. I mean, there's no way this band started off as like a punky. I don't know if I call them straight punk, but they were punky,
Yeah.
And really raw. And I liked hearing those early demos and things like that. We always reference our mom on the podcast, and she had a pretty good set of 45s in her vinyl collection. And that was my first memory of the Police. But really, I would say more recently, I work in a school district, and we recently had a principal retire who was with our district for a long time. He is the biggest Police fan I've ever met.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And talking about the Police with him, it's just like talking about anybody who just loves a band. He knows everything,
Really?
Yeah. And so
Sting too, or just the Police stuff?
No, really just the Police.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Which is very cool. He just retired. So, hopefully it's time now to listen to Two Twins and an album. Yeah. He's great to talk to about the Police because he really knows the band. And I think that there's the casual Police fan who just kind of does Every Breath You Take and Sting stuff and can't figure out the difference between the two. And then there's like the hardcore Police fan who like gets into the album cuts and more of the reggae stuff, like the less commercial. And he was in that category, and it kind of re-inspired me to get back into him again. But I've never really gotten away from thinking that Ghost in the Machine is just this masterpiece. And I still think that. I still think there's a sound and a feel and a mood.
So you're a Ghost in the Machine guy too. Eh?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, for sure.
Nice.
I just think Ghost in the Machine is just a really special, perfect 80s album.
Yeah.
They hated each other on that one, but not quite as much as they did on Synchronicity. T, I think we should get into the tracks. There are 5 songs on here that you listen to and think, this might be one of the best songs ever made. And then there are 7 others, and we'll get into those as we drop the needle on the Police's 1983 album, Synchronicity. T, let's drop that needle.
Put the needle on the record. 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 When the drum beats go like this.
I tell you, it opens like a classic. That I can guarantee you, because it opens with Synchronicity 1. This is a band firing on all cylinders from the start. And they're incorporating the programming, the synthesizer stuff, the sequencing. They're on time. I don't know if it's a click track. I mean, if it was Hugh Pagham, it probably was.
Probably.
But they're on time.
Well, and to get Stewart to stay, I would imagine that a click was needed. A click, or they just play the damn thing in the background for him.
Right, exactly. But the song has this unique mood to it. It's thin, but it's full. It's got some different textures. I think my favorite bit, though, is at the end when those tight horns come in.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and wasn't this the guy that produced, if you go all the way back to episode 2, isn't this the guy that produced No Jacket, or what Phil Collins did we do? Was it?
Well, he produced every Phil Collins solo album for the first 5 or whatever. So
had to get the horns in there, the Hugh horns.
Oh, of course, yeah. But T, what do you think of Synchronicity 1?
I mean, it's a great starter. So Spirits in the Material World's probably my favorite Police song. It's one of my favorite album openers, as I mentioned earlier, and it's such a clever song. I mean, this is a very clever band. They were not dummies. They knew how to play with time signatures and play with different elements that really squashed a lot of genres together and made it work. I mean, these guys were a very heady, clever band musically, and apparently lyrically as well. That the inspiration for this comes from this 19th century author, he was like a communist, and then he turned anti-communist. There's this whole thing behind the meaning of this record. So these guys weren't afraid to be a little bit heady, but it really sort of morphed into a lot of musical creativity that was really interesting. And yeah, I love the way this starts. I think there was a clear way to treat this after track 1 wraps up, and obviously they didn't do it. But I don't know. Do you want to know what it is, or should I wait?
A Synchronicity 2?
Yeah, okay, right. Why don't they just all of a sudden, as this is winding down, the horns and everything, just have Stewart go pot doom gotta do, no break, just no fade out, any of that garbage, just right into it, and let's go Synchronicity 1 and Synchronicity 2 right away. Did anybody not think of that? Did they think of it and they thought it was stupid? Did they think of it and they thought it was too predictable? But it's why didn't they do this? This is my first of many gripes on sequencing. Why not kick it right into 2? I don't know.
I think it's a good point.
Instead of the garbage that follows, in particular.
Let's get into the garbage. Let's dive into the trash. Track 2, Walking in Your Footsteps. Yeah, everyone in the 80s had to do their tribal African rhythm thing.
Right. World music. Yeah.
Yeah. World music with lyrics apparently about dinosaurs. It's terrible. It's such a letdown after Synchronicity 1.
No, I mean, I'm all for the sort of, let's not go with the templated sort of, the high fidelity thing. It's like, you got to start with track 1 and then you bring it up a notch and track that, and you got to bring it down a notch for it. Like, I mean, if you want to,
you don't want to blow your wads, then you got to take it down a notch.
Right. Exactly. So like, okay, if you don't want to go for that, that's fine. But what a just stupid track 2. Track 3, fine. 4, cool. Boy, after you start the way you do, which is hot, you stick this as track 2. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
It certainly does not make sense. And then comes track 3. Oh my God. Which makes me want to say, oh my God.
I mean, dude, even this would have been better as track 2. I mean, and it's not good, but like, I don't know, whatever.
This is the song to me that really sounds like 3 guys recording in 3 different rooms. I mean, they're just not on the same page. I really like what Andy's doing. He's playing a different song. And Sting's got this groove that you could tell he was like, boys, let's do something with this. And Stuart's like bored, you can tell. It's just, they sound completely disengaged and completely divided. Yeah. And you know why? Because they were.
I could go on about how bad the track sequencing is on this record for hours.
And it continues with track 4. After saying, oh my God, then we say, mother.
I was hoping it'd be the Danzig version, but it wasn't.
Mother! Yeah.
Dear, please listen and don't devour me. Oh, mother dear, please listen, don't devour me. Oh, women, please have mercy. Let this poor boy be. Oh, mother dear, please listen.
I mean, the thing I like about it is it's like a middle finger. It's like a musical middle finger. It's like, this is a major label, hugely commercial album with such an experimental Andy Summers track on it. So symbolically, I'm going to say, okay, I'm kind of respect it. It's awful. I mean, it's unlistenable, you know?
I mean, the only fun part about this song is figuring out that it's in, 7 time. And after that, it's just stupid. Yeah, it's like avant-garde. It's like bad, weird.
Yeah.
And way too early to have a song like this. I mean, again,
well, exactly. To your point.
What are they doing?
I know.
What are they doing?
Exactly. All right, continuing on track 5, nearing the end of side 1, Miss Gredenko.
You've been letting your feelings show. Are you safe, Miss Gredenko? Miss Gredenko, are you safe?
The best of the non-hits. For sure. This is Stuart Copeland penned song. So it has that little kind of a complex aspect to it. Stuart Copeland did a solo project called Clark Kent.
Yep.
It's kind of an art rock, kind of proggy thing. And this reminds me.
Do you like the Clark Kent stuff?
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's
I like a lot of the solo stuff. Andy Summers did a couple albums with Robert Fripp that I really like. Clark Kent thing is cool. I think Stuart Copeland, he did some stuff with Adrian Belew in the 2000s. That was kind of cool. A project with him. And I kind of like what all 3 of them did apart from each other in spots. Even Sting's solo career. I mean, there was some magnificent work and then some stuff that was just, unlistenable.
Yeah.
But I do think this is the best of the non-hits, the album tracks, if you will. It's at least clever and interesting. But again, it's sort of directionless, right? I mean, what does it really do that's captivating?
Yeah, I mean, I like that it's 2 minutes long.
That's your favorite thing about it.
That was supposed to be funny.
Yeah, it was. I like it. I like it.
That's my favorite part about it. Is it's 2 minutes long. I mean, it's not awful, but I'm glad it's 2 minutes long.
your redemption at the end of side 1 comes with that sandwich. And it didn't come right after Synchronicity 1, but later on the side does come Synchronicity 2. It's really hard to turn that off. I think this is probably the Police, probably their best song overall. It's an incredible composition. It winds through, great pre-chorus. I almost feel like this song created a genre. When you look at some of the early music by the Killers and some of the early kind of angular rock that was going on in the early 2000s, it just sounds a heck of a lot like the Police. And I think Synchronicity 2 is a big part of that. There's actually a cover version of this song. There was a Police tribute album that they did, and an emo band called Branson did a cover of Synchronicity 2 that is mind-blowing.
Oh, nice.
It really brings out the power of the song, the heaviness of the song. I just think so highly of Synchronicity 2.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. The pre-chorus you mentioned where the bass holds and he's just playing that octave note and Andy's moving up and down the neck. I mean, that's a great sound when done properly. There's a lot of different examples of that. Worm by Yes, that type of an idea where everything's holding, but the guitar's kind of going up and down and playing unique kind of open chords. The ending is awesome with The Million Miles Away. They ended it in a very unexpected and interesting way. It's a phenomenal song. Everything about it. And, you mentioned earlier, it sounds disjointed in so many areas of the album. I think this is one of the lone examples where they really were on the same page. Everybody is doing their part on this song. It's a brilliant composition and really, really well executed.
Yeah. Well said in every way, T. Well said. Side 2, they certainly backloaded it with hits, and none greater than, to me, one of the more confusing hits that I've ever experienced as a music fan in my lifetime. This song was written in the middle of the night, as so many hit songs seem to be. Sting woke up from a dream and kind of wrote this song out of nowhere. And I have a very simple assessment of this song. The one thing that is inarguable is the unbelievable success of the lead single and not only the Police's biggest hit of all time, but one of the biggest hits of all time, not just of the 1980s, but of the 20th century. And that is Every Breath You Take.
Goes out to everyone that is lost.
Nice.
Truly loved. Check it. Seems like
Of course, featuring Puff Daddy.
I laced the track, you locked the flow.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that the Rocks?
That was well done. Nice. So you chose the tail end of the song, which I think is a part that you like. My assessment of Every Breath You Take is very simple. I think it's how you can take terrible verses and an incredibly dull chorus and make it a phenomenal song simply by having one of the best bridges of all time. Because the bridge is the song.
This is the Oh Can't You See?
No. This is the since you're gone, I've been lost.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
the middle eight. Yeah.
Just an incredible bridge.
Yeah.
That really is the cornerstone of a otherwise kind of boring song. I mean, really, like what's interesting about Every Breath You Take, but when it lifts into that bridge, oh baby.
Yeah.
That is special.
I think that's a good point. It definitely, you sort of are trying to get there And then, yeah, I think the ending's strong. I mean, because it's understated. I mean, the whole song's a little creepy, right? Lyrically. And so I think they did a good job of not wanting it to get too poppy. I mean, they knew they had a hit. I think everyone knew they had a hit musically. But I think they did an okay job of keeping it minimalist, which it is. I just always found it funny and weird that Sting was playing the stand-up bass in the video.
Right, yeah.
I mean, that was just for show, right?
Yeah, definitely.
He's not really playing that goddamn thing, right?
No.
Yeah.
Sting, I will say in retrospect, Sting is a better bass player than I thought he was when I was a kid. I thought he was just but he's actually a pretty damn good bassist. When you see the Police live, which I did on their reunion, you do realize it's like, this dude actually is a damn good bass player.
He plays with his thumb. He's got a very unique style. He's good. It's a little bit like Kip Winger. Like you watch the 17 video where he's not actually like playing his bass guitar. He's just sort of like having sex with it, basically. And then you like hear Kip Winger play and you're like, oh my God, he's great. Like, you know, so you kind of see Sting during the videos or whatever, and you wonder if he like actually plays his instrument. But yeah, he's actually quite a good bassist. And, you know, a lot of the rhythmic stuff they do can get a little bit complex, and a lot of the reggae stuff, offbeat stuff, you know, I mean, you got to be pretty good to hang on that.
So I think the next song is again, this album has the best of times and worst of times, right? Some of the best of times is certainly track 2 of side 2, and that is King of Pain. When the album is good, or in this case, when it's exceptional, it's the little things. And this is where Hugh Padgham is so important in this piecing together of the album. Andy's little guitar during the chorus, that's very powerful. Those staccato synthesizer keyboard notes that add the layer. You know, the little things when they were focused and creative and, you know, really thinking deeply about how to enhance the songs, they're at their best.
Even that last section there, Andy's chopping out dead notes, and Stewart's, of course, on the bell on the ride. I mean, it's just, there's so much stuff going on.
So much. But all driven towards a composition that's as good as anything that these three guys have ever been a part of.
It's so good, man. It's so good. I mean, this and the one that follows are just the moments where, I mean, you kind of nailed it. It's like the moments where you're just like, is this the best band that ever existed? I mean, this like really the 4-song run of, you know, Synchronicity, 2 Every Breath You Take, King of Pain, and the next one are just remarkable. Name a 4-song run that was that impactful. And in most cases, I don't love Every Breath You Take, but that good. I mean, it'd be tough to, but yeah, King of Pain's a freaking heater. It's amazing.
It sure is. That 4-song run concludes as we near the end of Synchronicity with the amazing Wrapped Around Your Finger. Synchronicity 2, it might be the Police's best song, but Wrapped Around Your Finger is my favorite Police song. It's the one that, when I saw them live, was pulled off brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Stewart was playing this really neat percussive thing on this percussion rack that he had. And then right at that key moment when it all comes together and he runs back to the kit, starts playing, and they're actually kind of locked in. I mean, they're loose as always, but I just think this song is really powerful. I think it's really deep. I think it's really memorable. What's interesting about Wrapped Around Your Finger, that the guy I mentioned who I'm dedicating the episode to, my recently retired friend Clint, he hates Wrapped Around Your Finger.
Really?
Yeah. He and I have had literal like half-hour conversations.
Yeah.
Why Wrapped Around Your Finger is so incredible. And he talks about how much he hates it. I mean, he literally despises it. I think he'd probably tell you it's his least favorite song in the entire catalog.
Why?
Whereas to me, I just think it's this.
Why, Clint? Why?
I know. I mean, why?
I wish this was a call-in show. I'd have him call in right now.
Yeah.
That's why.
Maybe he'll do a rebuttal. But
yeah, great word depth. This was a song that probably like college, I just sort of discovered, and it was like, God, this is good. And still so good. Such a unique song. The way the treatment and the detail. I don't know that another band could have pulled it off this well. It's a great composition, but the performance is really what makes it. And Stuart's doing some really creative, cool stuff on the drums and taking a song that could have been boring and making it anything but with all the intricacies. It's a phenomenal track. And it should have been the second to last song on the album, and King of Pain should have been the closer, in my opinion.
I think either one of those would have worked well. Even if they were flip-flopped, I think it would have been great. So that's the end of Synchronicity. It just ends right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's do our assessment.
9 tracks, and yeah, there you go.
Oh, wait, there's one more. So let's do it quickly. And that is the closing. Ugh, Tea in the Sahara.
The joy you could not measure. Take wait for him here. The same place every year. Beneath the sheltering sky. Across the desert he would fly. Tea in the Sahara.
And we all know what Sting is doing here. He's foreshadowing his solo career. I mean, if I told you that was off the Soul Cages, wouldn't you believe me?
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
It's a total Sting solo song, right? I mean, in every way. And it's really boring. And I wish they didn't close the album with it, because Wrapped Around Your Finger would have been such a powerful closer, as would King of Pain. I think you're right.
Kind of fitting for a record that struggled so much in the sequencing department to end with a song like this. I mean, it's got 5 of the best songs one can make. And then the rest of it just falls off a cliff. You know, it just doesn't measure up. And that was pretty common at the time, but it was uncommon to not spread things out a little bit.
I think you make a great point on the sequencing. And I didn't plan to really cover that a lot. And I'm glad that you brought it up, because properly sequenced, at least the album would have a certain rhythm to it.
Yeah.
So T, that is 1983's Synchronicity. So as always, T, did Synchronicity matter?
Well, I'll quit whining about the track sequencing. I mean, you know, the commercial success of it was very important. It is critically acclaimed. And I think, you know, you'd find that while a lot of people probably look back and say the same thing we do, that it's top heavy rather than spread out and balanced, that there are still tracks on here that are undeniably great. So, yeah, I mean, I think it mattered. I think it was important. I think it holds up pretty well, honestly, you know, and a lot of that had to do with the production. The production of it is a big reason why it came off the way it does. I'm surprised Hugh didn't have more input for the band on how this should be structured and how this should be laid out in sequence. But when you have a band, like you said, that is so disjointed in terms of communication, in terms of, you know, trying to present something, truly kind of putting 3 heads together rather than just everyone contributing in silos, that's sometimes the stuff that happens as a result. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's all part of it. But commercially extremely relevant in the early 80s, was a big album for the industry, and, you know, a good one to still go back and listen to and assess. And, you know, sometimes these records that are imperfect provide the best amount of analysis and critical thought and conversation. So it was a good choice. What do you think? Did it matter? Does it hold up? What do you think, buddy?
I think that Synchronicity is more beloved than it actually deserves to be. I think that the album carries with it great imagery, this gigantic hit, one of the decade's biggest stars. But in the end, I think it contains 5 of the best songs one could ever make. And the rest of it sounds like a band who has already sort of cashed it in. So T, with that, let's do the final cut. Is Synchronicity on the turntable. Is it in the collection? Is it collecting dust? Or is it headed to the for sale bin? Tia, where do you have?
Yeah, you can't put it in the for sale bin. There's just too many strong moments. It's a dust collector. I think you have to have it in your collection. I have it in my collection. I mean, I have it along with Ghost in the Machine. I think you said it well. I mean, part of that is you feel like you should have it as much as it is you can't wait to listen to it. I mean, I'm popping in Ghost in the Machine over this, and that's probably one that would be more in the territory of in the collection. This is collecting dust just because the execution of kind of the album structurally, top to bottom, just doesn't hit the mark, for all the reasons we've discussed. So you can pick off these great songs, but are you really going to pop this in and you can't wait to get through Mother and Oh My God and Walking in Your Footsteps and whatever, and you can't wait for that closer, Tea in the Sahara? I mean, it's just, I don't think there's a compelling reason to put this on the turntable very often, but I do think it's worthy of being in. I like having it in my collection, so therefore I'm going to go collecting dust. What do you got, bud?
I have this album reluctantly in the collection. You said it perfectly. I just agree with everything you just said. And again, I think it comes back to that. It's like the album as a brand. It's almost like the yellow, red, and blue created this brand identity for this album that goes beyond whether it's as good as everyone says it is. It just has to be there, right? You just need it. Ghost in the Machine needs to be with it, though. I really see the relationship between these two, and I still think Ghost in the Machine is this band's undisputed masterpiece, not Synchronicity, though I do adore the high points of it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, T, let's end the way we always do about this time, and that is to see what is ringing in your head. Let's do it. T, 3 songs that are ringing in your head.
Like we always do about this time. In my head, here we go. What Time Is Love? 3 a.m. Eternal, Last Train to Trans Central, Justified and Ancient, and Doctor in the TARDIS. What do you got, Nub?
Was that more than 3?
Yeah, those were the KLF songs.
I love it. I absolutely love it. I love it.
What do you got, buddy?
I got Led Zeppelin with a little Misty Mountain Hop.
Nice.
Very good song off 4.
Very good song.
Underrated Zeppelin song, maybe. The before mentioned Ian Thornley from Big Wreck, his solo song Falling to Pieces from the Thornley Project is one that has been spinning lately for sure. And you mentioned Winger. There's a new album from Winger. We didn't talk about it up top. Mm-hmm. But Little Madeline been ringing this week from the opening track from the first Winger album.
Speaking of brilliant openers, yeah.
Exactly. Well, T, we don't hate each other, and that's a good thing.
Good, buddy.
Unlike the band that we examined tonight, we love each other.
It's good to have you back.
It's very good to have you back, and I appreciate you after 134 days. Thanks for being patient. And what's going on with Tov's Top 5? Are we going to have another one coming up?
Oh, sure. I mean, those will sprinkle in every so often, but it's good to have the big show back.
Absolutely. It most certainly is. And thanks everybody for tuning in. You could find us on our social medias, outlets, and all over the webs and all sorts of things like that. Thanks again for tuning in. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And we will see you very soon on a future edition. It will be shorter than 134 days of 2 twins and an album.
2 twins and an album. Well, that's about it. That's all we have. I hope it wasn't too disappointing. We will see you on tour. Until then, take it easy.